Hello and welcome to the DJ Force 10 in Conversation podcast, episode 116. My special guest this episode is none other than Rao Reynolds of the band Enter Shikari. I've been a follower of theirs for a very long time, ever since they played with us in London many years ago, which we do sort of touch on within my sort of general fapping during the podcast. But yeah, they're about to drop their new album. It's called Nothing Is True and Everything Is Possible. And that is out on April the 17th. I would recommend listening to it. I've so far heard the 4 tracks that they released already, and I got a sneak peek of a couple of others. But he's got certainly some hidden gems on there as well, which I haven't heard yet, but I'm very excited to hear. You'll hear about that in the podcast. But before that, I just want to do a few shout outs to say thank you to the people that have been listening, I really appreciate it. Please keep doing it if you're enjoying what we're doing here, chatting to these bands and stuff. But a shout out to Blabbermouth as well for sort of featuring a couple of my podcasts recently. I've only just found out, but they did a portion of the Sepultura podcast and a portion of the Lamb of God podcast as well, which was absolutely fantastic. So that would explain a lot of the sort of hits from random places that I'd never got hits from before. So thank you to the guys there. All the bands and stuff that we've been featuring, please let me know if you've been checking them out, because I really want to know. I want to know what sort of, if it floats your boat or whatever, during this we're still in lockdown. But bringing you these podcasts in hope that this brings you a little bit of distraction on that front. And talking about it right now, obviously you're not distracted from it. But like I said, it's there for you if you want it. And that's what I'm doing it for. That and the bands, obviously, because they're in downtime and everything as well. So a lot of their plans have been put on hold. I'm going to stop rambling and pass you on to the actual interview now. So, yeah, this is Rao Reynolds of Enter Shikari. Enjoy. Excellent. On my show today, I have Rao Reynolds from Enter Shikari. Welcome, Rao.
Hello.
How are you doing today?
Yeah, I'm good. I'm in my house in North London. Obviously, quite lonely, living a solitary life. Yeah. But I have my cat to keep me company, and I've lots to be getting on with the band. So
that's good.
And I have my health, so I cannot complain. No,
that is very good. Definitely. I mean, yeah, it's crazy at the moment, but here we are, all sort of stuck in our houses and whatnot. But you know, so yeah, like you said, you've got your new record coming out on Friday. It's called Nothing Is True and Everything Is Possible. You've released a couple of tracks off it already. What we got? We got The Great Unknown, Dreamers Hotel, The King, and is it TINA? Was the latest one? Yeah, cool. Yeah. No, all absolutely amazing tracks. I've been following you guys for, I'm going to be honest with you, since about 2004, 2005.
Amazing.
You guys actually played with my band, amazingly enough. We played upstairs at the garage. I think you were on tour with First Signs of Frost.
Oh, wow.
We're going way back.
I remember that. Damn.
So
what was your band?
My band was Zero Cypher. We were.
Yeah, okay. Awesome. Yeah, I remember that.
Okay, cool. I was going to remember or not. I so remember because it was the first time I saw you guys, and because I was the DJ in the band, and
right,
and because you guys had electronic bits and bobs, I was kind of nosing around your stuff, and and then after that, I just watched you guys rise and rise and rise. It's been absolutely magnificent. On that show, I think I picked up a CD, or I got a CD after that. It was the Anything Can Happen demo or EP.
Right.
Since then I've just been following you guys, much like I've been following, because we play with Skin Dread quite a lot, and watching you guys rise and rise and rise, and sort of catching you live when I can. So I'll just give you my little backstory on you guys there. But yeah, no, I've caught you guys a few times. I saw you at the Warriors Dance Festival.
Oh, awesome! Yeah,
and various other shows between there and then. I think it was like the Astoria, when it existed.
Yeah,
I'm trying to think of others, but there's been quite a few, and because you guys have always like melded the kind of electronics with your sort of like rock indie sound, it's that's sort of like a passion of mine. So yeah, no, it's an absolute. What I'm trying to say, it's an absolute pleasure to actually speak to you, Rao.
Oh no, well, thanks for having me. All good.
But no, I mean, let's talk about your new record. Like I said, I've heard some of those tracks you've got already. I've actually been fortunate enough to be sent a couple of streams of a couple of others as well. I really, really like Satellites.
Oh, cool.
Off the album. And I think I heard Crossing the Rubicon as well, which is another really good track.
Awesome.
So yeah, what can you tell us about it that I haven't already said already? What can we sort of expect from it when it comes out on Friday?
I suppose the obvious thing from people when they eventually listen to the whole thing as an entity will be like the 4 tracks that we've released aren't really representative of the album as a whole.
Okay.
Which it rarely is the case with us, but I think the breadth on this album, just like the sheer diversity of like the tone and the instrumentation and the emotions that we're trying to convey, it's definitely our most diverse album to date. So I guess that would be almost like one thing to pre-warn people with if people are sort of expecting, because the ones we released so far have all been sort of like bangers,
yes.
Like ones that I'm really looking forward to playing live and stuff. But there's a real degree of like not so much subtlety, but just detail on this album.
Mm-hmm.
There's a track that's basically an orchestral piece. Then there's another track which is just straight up electronica. And then there's a waltz. There's kind of some very odd songs on there. And yeah, just really just trying to progress really and just trying to push things forward.
Yeah, I mean, you mentioned the orchestral part of it, and I did notice on the sort of blurb that I got sent, you work with the Prague Symphonic on is it Elegy for Extinction?
Extinction, yeah.
Extinction, sorry. I can't even read my own handwriting here. And you worked with, it was composed with George Fenton.
Yes.
You've done quite a few bits and bobs in the past. How did that come about? What was the sort of like story behind that?
Well, we met each other a few years ago, and just on sort of with the possibility of working on projects, and even though none of those worked out, he ended up at one of our shows in London, and I think he's an incredible composer. He has an amazing CV. Has brought out some. I guess the most obvious things that people will have heard are things like Planet Earth and Blue Planet.
Yeah,
he was basically the BBC's flagship nature documentary composer for years. So it's, even being able to meet him was amazing, and listen to some of his insights, because kind of composing in more of the classical sphere is something that I've always been very interested in. So after he saw us live, he was really interested in doing something together. And I'd said I'd been working on this. I had this piece, and it sort of, even though it was for an orchestra, it still felt like a Shikari track.
Yeah.
So I wanted to sort of go forward and actually, instead of it just remaining on my computer as a piece of MIDI, like just an experiment of just me in my room, I really wanted to like actually record it with an orchestra and bring it to life. And so he was an incredible, like, confidence boosting person, really, to come in and help me, because I'd written for brass and strings, but never for woodwind. I haven't really done much stuff for like orchestral percussion either. So he was just able to like guide me through the process of making this piece, playable for an orchestra, and just making sure the right parts went to the right instruments and things like that. And yeah, and both went over to Prague and recorded it with the Prague Symphonic. It was a very surreal experience.
I was going to say it's certainly you've gone full throttle on that one. And getting I mean, working with a person like George Fenton is amazing to start with. Like you said, his sort of his works are world renowned. I mean, everyone, a lot of people I know have seen Blue Planet, Planet Earth. He's also worked on various films and stuff as well, which is crazy. But did he give you any insight into that sort of process as well, like scoring for pictures, if you will?
Yeah. I mean, we've had so many conversations over the last year or so, really. I mean, one of the funny things was I think he was very intrigued by our fusing of different inspirations and genres and things, and he kind of was enthused by that because he found that one of the things in his world, i.e. film scoring, is that it can get quite banal and sort of, you're expected to write a score that's very similar to another score. You're each job, you're given references, and it can get quite sort of production line-y.
Yeah.
And I found I was actually just having a similar experience doing pop writing. So I did quite a few writing camps, really, and songwriting sessions for pop artists last year. And I mean, I learned a lot, and it was an interesting experience. But at the same time, I was having exactly the same experience. That was just wow, this is so formulaic, so sterile, so sort of soulless. So we bonded over that a lot. So I think with George, he's very excited about. He has quite a punk mindset, believe it or not.
Okay.
So I think he gets very excited about trying new things, and obviously working with bands. He's done loads of stuff with bands in the past as well, which is something that perhaps doesn't get promoted as much with him. He's done stuff with the Who, huge acts.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think that's what drives him, which I found really, really interesting.
Cool.
Yeah.
I mean, that's awesome. I look forward to hearing that because I've heard his work and seeing how that melds with your sort of songwriting process and everything. It's really cool. Any other sort of surprises on the album at all, or is that the sort of because like you say, it's quite diverse. You said you made a waltz and stuff as well.
Yeah, the waltz is. It's just proper disconcerting, really. The theme for that one came sort of before the music. Well, there's a musical idea, but the lyrics is basically it's just a load of lies. So this album is really presenting the first half of the title of the album, so the nothing is true aspect. This kind of sentiment that it's so hard to grasp truth nowadays because everyone has their own ideologies which they exaggerate for, their own ulterior motives, their own biases. I'm speaking about individuals as well as organizations and the media and corporations and everything. And so this song lists all these lies, and I wanted to find the right style of music that would be slightly disconcerting. And obviously, pop and rock is pretty much all in 4/4. So we're so used to listening to music in 4/4, and to the fact that even 3/4, which is still a time signature that's been used a fair bit throughout musical history.
Yep.
It still feels just slightly odd, and just slightly sort of disorientating to the average sort of listener. So that felt like the right meter, the right rhythm to put forward for this song that's essentially supposed to be a bit disorientating. So that one's definitely an odd. It's track 4, and it hits you. It's just whoa, this is odd. And then there's all sorts. There's another track which is called Apocalypse Anonymous, which is interesting because it's the polar opposite of of Elegy, the orchestral track, because I was working with like 60 to 70 musicians, whereas with this one it's just pure electronica. It's just me sitting at a laptop. Like it couldn't be more solitary. So yeah, there's all the kind of processes of making music seem to have gone in this album, all the different type of experiences you can have making music.
Yeah, no, it's good. I mean, from the track, like you said, the sort of bangers you released already have been exactly that. I'd normally be DJing a rock club every month down here in Surrey, but and I play your tracks on it, and the ones you've released for this one, I can play those tracks as well. I haven't been able to sample them just yet, purely because all the clubs are shut down right now. But once we get back into it, I'm definitely knocking out a bunch of those, like, because I like to hit people with like new music rather than sort of, along with the sort of, once people get to a certain level of drunk, they like the sort of new metal classics.
Absolutely, yeah.
But yeah, no, definitely, no. I look forward to see what you do with the album and how it goes for you and everything. Because, like I said, I've been watching you guys sort of rise, and every album's been good. I really enjoyed the Hospitalized remix album as well.
Oh, safe, yeah. That was so much fun to make. But no, thank you. I really appreciate the
and I was going to say, Hospital Records have been one of my like favourite like D&B labels for a long time, and like working with those, like that was I mean, I've got the album on vinyl, put it that way. So like, I went that far. So you've got plans post pandemic, which you just announced. You've got like a full on tour coming at the end of the year. And that's a full European tour as well, isn't it? It's you hit, well, I say full, I mean you're hitting most European countries and everything. And how's that been received so far? Do you know? Is it like sort of, or is it too early to really tell?
Well, I mean, I think people are grateful to sort of put something in the diary. There's still a possibility that it won't be able to go ahead, and we'll have to postpone it. But at the moment, I think it's just nice to have those things to look forward to. And I'm speaking as for myself, really.
Yes, definitely.
And I'm sure like the audience feels that way as well. But we had these shows like planned before any of this started. So we thought, well, it seems far enough in advance to sort of, fingers crossed that we'll be able to do it. But obviously with it, every day that goes by, we don't know whether there's going to be a second wave in winter or anything like that. So,
no, definitely.
Yeah, fingers crossed. But
yeah, no, like I say, it's a full tour. You're hitting Ukraine, Finland, Russia, obviously England, Germany, Switzerland. I'm just going Netherlands, Poland. Not in that order, by the way. I'm just picking out names on the list I've got. But no, that's really cool. I mean, it's good to have that sort of like post-pandemic like plans and everything, because a lot of people have had to like flat out cancel everything. And I know, like you said, you had these sort of things in the diary already, but it's good to have, like you say, people to look forward to stuff, because I know a lot of people really want to come see you. I know a lot of people going to Alexandra Palace to come see you guys, and Rock City as well. I've got a lot of friends up that way as well, so awesome. So that's all cool. I've got a couple of questions left for you, if that's all right, and then I can let you get on with. I know you've got a big day of probably more press, because I know you've been quite busy recently. So No,
it's all good though.
It's all good. It's keeping you busy, so which is exactly what we need at this time. So
I've had so many of my friends like complaining about, I'm so bored. I've watched everything I wanted to watch on Netflix. I'm like, oh my God, I'd love to be bored, right?
Boredom would be great.
Yeah.
No, I've been homeschooling and stuff, so I've been like keeping occupied that way.
Oh, incredible.
And my work's been like
how was that?
It's all right. I used to be a teacher about sort of like 15 odd years ago. At sort of college level, I was a teacher, and my kids are like, well, they're just primary and middle school sort of level. So It's not been too bad, to be honest with you. Like we've had stuff sent from their school to kind of process through, but we've kind of been using a lot of like resources that I've got sort of still access to.
Awesome.
And going through that. So it's quite rewarding, but they're kind of like, it's a holiday, but then I think the novelty wore off last week. So
Rory, our guitarist, was saying a similar sort of thing. Yeah, I think he's got two kids, and he he's kind of the because his partner is a key worker, so she's out all the time. But he's been left as the as Mr. Clulo, the teacher.
Yes, yes. No, it's fine. I mean, thankfully, my work, and they're sort of giving us stuff to do, which is good.
Cool.
I'm occupied, which is nice. I'm obviously quite fortunate, still being paid and all that kind of good stuff.
Yeah.
So, and actually having something to do, finally. So, but yeah, like I said, I got a couple of last questions for you. Let's go from there. What I'd like to know is your 3 top albums that have shaped the musician that you have become. So,
wow.
So the one that sort of like made you sort of, pick up a microphone or start twiddling on the keyboards or whatever. Those sort of albums.
Okay. What would I go with first? Well, I guess it's somewhat, it's almost sort of cliche now, but the Beatles were like just such a huge part of my musical upbringing.
Yeah.
And I remember listening to Sgt. Pepper's, and I actually remember I had it on tape, and I used to sneak my Walkman under my pillow every night as a kid and just listen to it for like hours,
Nice.
just in bed whilst my parents thought I'd be asleep. But yeah, so that was just hugely formative. Like I think I was, even as a relatively young person, like in terms of my musical experience, I was still drawn to like things that were diverse and had lots of different sounds, and were big sort of soundscapes, and just really lured you in with just interesting different things happening. And then I guess to continue the same sort of theme, I'd maybe go with Radiohead Kid A.
Cool.
I was a massive Radiohead fan, but that album, especially when it's so different from their first 2 albums.
Yeah.
It's just like, just purely electronica, really. But still, melody was the driving force behind it, and I just found that so inspiring. And then thirdly, I'd maybe go with Prodigy, Music for the Jilted Generation. I remember my uncle introducing me to that, and as a kid that had grown up with sort of Motown and Northern Soul from my dad, and then the Beatles and Queen, and then Britpop. It was all very sort of guitar based or sort of pop based, and then being shown the Prodigy and being shown acid house and rave culture and stuff like that, I was just like completely blown away, and that it was basically my entrance into electronic music. So that was definitely
that's cool. I was about to ask where your like electronic influences lie, because obviously the first 2 you mentioned, the Beatles, they experimented early on with synths and stuff like that. Radiohead, that Kid A album, like you say, it's electronica, and it was very melody driven and whatnot. But yeah, that Jilted album, absolutely fantastic album. I love that. That was one of my first forays into the Prodigy, along with Experience as well. Just like hearing Charlie and stuff everywhere. I'm wondering what that was, like Cat That Talks off the TV. And but yeah, no, the Prodigy are massive in my life, in my sort of like influences and stuff as well. And I absolutely love that Jilted album. It's fantastic. Awesome. Final question for you, mate. What are your hobbies away from music? So when you're not composing and writing and whatnot, what do you do?
What do I do? I mean, music plays a massive part of my life, so it's hard to think outside. Well, I actually really starting to getting into gardening. So I grow a lot of my own food.
Yep.
I've got like it's London, so it's a very small garden.
Yeah.
But I have like just a little vegetable patch. So this year I've got some potatoes.
Nice,
I've got some onions, some garlic. Yeah. Yeah, I just find that, like, I don't know, really interesting. I think it's a bit of a lost art with like the generations that are coming up.
Yeah.
Our generation and young those younger than us. I think there's it's just we see food in the supermarket and we sort of forget the processes of how it's made. So I find that really interesting.
Cool.
Other than that, I don't know really. Reading, running, I'm getting big into. I was going to do my first half marathon this year, but I don't think that's going to happen.
Okay.
Obviously, but yeah, no, I quite enjoy long distance running.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Cool. Well, Rao, thank you very much, mate. I really appreciate your time.
No problem. Thank you for having me.
No worries. I'll let you get on with the rest of your day, which is looks like it's probably going to be filled up with stuff. So
yeah, well, promo.
Exactly. Well, good luck with it all. I look forward to hearing the whole album on Friday. And yeah, I hope you stay safe and all that kind of good stuff. And we'll see you after this whole thing blows over.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, take care. Thanks for having me.
Thank you very much, Rao. Have a good one.
Cheers.
Bye-bye.
Nice one. Bye.